Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be another episode of budget builds where we use zero Forma and achieve maximum efficiency. So in today's video, we're going to be playing as Sevagoth. As you guys know, he is the Grim Reaper of Warframe, or shall I say the Shadow Reaper. I'm still deciding whether Necros is the Grim Reaper or Sevagoth. I think at this point they're both neck and neck, but to be honest with you, I'd say it's more Sevagoth just because the fact that, well, Necros is a necromancer, hence his name. So of course, I do want to let you guys know that I will be making two versions of this particular video. This is going to be purely focused on, the shadow build. However, I'm not too crazy about the shadow build because on paper, it sounds great. But when it comes to actual survivability, yeesh, it's not exactly the most easiest. So it's been quite difficult to try and mod for Sevagoth Shadow when it comes to surviving. But the damage output is definitely there. You are literally a glass cannon when it comes to actually fighting the enemies. However, with the correct modification or the mod set, you can absolutely shred the Grenier, especially if they've got armor or not. If they don't have armor, even better. But you don't have to worry about armor because we're just going to be eating through them like it is Swiss cheese. So just like every other budget builds episode, we are going to quickly be going over all of Sevagoth's builds or abilities. Now, for you guys who have already been in this channel for a while, you guys already know how it's going to work. We're just going to skim through everything and get a move on. So, basically, all of his abilities synergize really well with one another. All they really need to do is allow you to go into your exalted shadow form. Because remember, at the end of the day, you always have to go and fill up this death well meter. And the only way that can really be happening is if you go and inflict the enemies with your curse and then kill them. Particularly Reap and Soul are the only ones which will mainly allow you to go and do so. Gloom simply just allows you to crowd control the enemies, just like how, Nova's Molecular Prime works, except this time you're going to be slowing enemies, and of course you're going to be able to drain their life energy, which will obviously be thrown into your life energy. Now, when it comes to life energy, we are also going to be talking about Sevagoth's passive, and basically if you guys decide to go and die as Sevagoth, you'll then be thrown into your shadow form. Therefore, you'll be able to go and, reap 5 enemies. Once you guys have done that, then you'll be able to get back into the action. However, if you do die while under Tombstone, then that's it, you are dead. Think of it as Nidus's passive except for Sevagoth himself. And then as for Reap, essentially all you're going to be doing is you're going to be throwing your ghost at the enemies, and for every enemy that your ghost does touch, you'll then be able to go and kill them, and then the souls will then be taken and then added into your death well meter, which can be found at the bottom left hand corner. Next up is we do have Soul, and this allows you to plant the seed onto the enemies, draining their life force, and then you'll be able to just essentially just detonate it and then just kill all the nearby enemies. Now, I will be making a build after this video because at the end of the day, I don't believe that Exalted Shadow is Sevagoth's most powerful ability. It is certainly his most coolest one. However, the biggest downside when it comes to Exalted Shadow is you've got no survivability whatsoever. Now, as for Sevagoth themselves, we actually have 3 individual builds to go and mod for because Sevagoth is quite the complicated Warframe. So we've got the main Warframe himself. We've also got his shadow form and of course the claws. Now, because this is going to be a shadow build, we're going to be dealing with both of these plus the main Warframe themselves. But like I said, I know that Sevagoth can nuke. That'll be in the next video or the future one, depending on how far I get when it comes to Blackworth Wukong. We are currently playing with that. I am currently working on the next episode. I kind of just want to sit down and play that game all night, but at the same time, I want to share the experience with you guys. Now, as for the build, just because this is a budget build series, we are going to be adding no Forma because that's how we're rolling since the last 5 or 6 years we've been active. I can't remember how long it's been since I've been doing YouTube, but essentially no Forma. That's just how we are going to be rolling around. Now, of course, we are going to be moving on to Sevagoth's Shadow. Just like I just said, no Forma, no video. That's just how we are going to be rolling. And if you guys take a look at the aura, we are going to be forcing, that's what she said, we are going to be forcing an aura called Combat Discipline, which basically damages ourselves if we go and kill an enemy, which is really good when it comes to synergizing with Arcane Avenger. Now, I do want to say Arcane Avenger really just gives you a little bit extra crit, and I don't like lying to you guys because if you guys take a look at the shorts video I posted not too long ago, this was with Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger. I would go and add something else, but I don't like lying to you guys when it comes to making videos. You can definitely go and add other alternatives like Arcane Aegis, which will help you guys out a little bit when it comes to your survivability. Because like I said, the one downside to Sevagoth's shadow build is the fact that, well, he doesn't have any survivability whatsoever, and when it comes to modding him, everyone always goes and adds him for the nuke based ability. But we're not going to copy the flock. We like to do our own thing and still provide as much value to everybody else as possible. So preparation, just so when we go into our shadow form, we'll be able to use all of our abilities without any restriction whatsoever. We don't have to worry about farming anything. Now, this particular mod always applies every time you guys go into your shadow form. So let's say that you've exited your shadow form because your death well meter is fully depleted and you want to go back into it. You refill it. Guess what? Preparation is always going to be proccing every time you go into your shadow form. Essentially always having energy, which is very, very, very nice. Next up is we are going to be using adaptation, which is going to help us out significantly when it comes to, you know, tanking all of the enemies. We're also going to be using fast deflection and vigilant vigor to allow us to get our shields back. Yes, we are going to be fully utilizing shield gating because I couldn't figure out any other way to go and add more protection towards Sevagoth without zapping our energy. We are of course going to be using the same thing when it comes to equilibrium. I understand it's just a rank 31, but remember, this is a zero Forma build, so some of the builds will be quite low, or the mods will be quite low level. So equilibrium, once again, it's going to help us regenerate our health if we go and pick up an energy orb. Next up is streamline, therefore we don't get caught with our pants down, and of course it's going to help us out when it comes to our energy economy. Next up is we are going to be using rolling guard, which is going to give us invulnerability frames. In this case, it's going to give us almost 3 seconds, which will remove all status effects, but we'll have an 8-second cooldown, which if you guys max out, it's only going to be a 7-second cooldown, so max it out. Next up is we are going to be using continuity to once again increase our duration, therefore our abilities can actually be active at all. Now for our arcanes, Fury is going to increase our melee damage if we just go and hit a critical hit on an enemy. Because we're always going to be hitting a crit, we're always going to be activating this particular arcane. And of course Avenger is just going to allow us to crit even more, but like I said, I don't like lying to you guys, so we're going to be dealing with Arcane Avenger. If you guys want any tips, I recommend maybe just adding Arcane Aegis along with Brief Respite. Therefore you guys can get even more shields for every energy you guys go and spend. And also feel free to incorporate flow, because the more energy you spend, the more shields you guys are going to go and get back. Now moving on to the claws themselves, like I said, we aren't going to be adding any Forma whatsoever, and the build is as follows. Essentially, we're going to be modding for base damage and of course critical damage along with crits and of course our element of choice. In this case, we are going to be modding for viral. So we've got ourselves Fever Strike, we've got Toxin, and of course Vicious Frost. Combining all three of these mods will then give you viral, which is very good when it comes to end game content these days. Next up is we are going to be adding Gladiator Might so we can get ourselves some of those big boy numbers, and of course we can also take full advantage of the mod bonus. However, if you guys want even more critical damage, you guys can go and opt in for Organ Shatter. However, if you guys can go and fit even more Gladiator mods, highly recommend you guys do so because of the set bonus. More crits, the better. Sacrificial Steel so that we can crit, and of course Sacrificial Pressure so we have a base damage, therefore we can crit off of something, if that makes sense. Because crit chance is pointless if you guys don't have any base damage to crit off of, if that makes sense. And of course, because we're big on when it comes to speed and when it comes to how fast we can go and swing our claws, we're going to be adding Berserker Fury. This is highly optional. If you guys feel like you don't need Berserker Fury, I recommend you guys can just go and add Organ Shatter. Doing so should give you around a 6.5 times critical damage multiplier, which is relatively high, but it's up to you guys. Berserker Fury is what I want because I like to go and swing my claws like an absolute berserker. Alright, so we're currently in the simulacrum, and of course I am going to be demonstrating to you guys exactly how this particular build does work. But first, I want you guys to take a note at the bottom right there. We do have a death well meter. As you guys know, if I try and push it, it says ability not rare, just because of the fact that the death well needs to be filled up to, I believe, 90%, just so that you can be able to go into your shadow form. And to do so, you simply have to go and kill enemies and just take their souls. In order to do so, it's relatively simple. Now, bear in mind, well, like I said, the next nuking video I do go and make, it will be pretty similar to this, except we're not going to be using our shadow form. We're just going to be able to go and annihilate all of the enemies. So, as you see, there's a whole bunch of enemies up there. go up to them like so. First, hit them with your 2, and then hit them with your 1, and then start killing them. And then as you guys can tell, they start exploding. And you guys can practically do the exact same thing. And then you can just start filling up your death well meter. When you start looking at that, your death well meter starts to fill up rapidly. And when it starts glowing like that, then you'll be able to go into your shadow form. But at the end of the day, you guys can tell this is a relatively powerful nuke build, even though we are only modding for our shadow build. So once it starts glowing like that, then you can go into your shadow form. So like I said, we're going to simulate these enemies, push our 4, and this is Sevagoth Shadow. So Sevagoth Shadow's got 4 abilities. We've got a pull ability, which will allow us to go and group up all the enemies like so. Then we've got our number 2 ability, which will be able to go and dash through them, which will then allow us to go and restore our health, which is something I really do love about Warframes these days. We've got number 3 ability, which will then make them vulnerable, which will then activate that new augment, which will then give us more critical chance, about 50%, called Reaping Sorrow or something like that. I'll throw up a visual representation on the screen, therefore you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, we've got his 4th ability, which will just return us to Sevagoth's base form. And like I said, simply push your 2, push your 1, kill the enemies, boom, they're dead. And on top of that, we'll be able to go and get all of our souls refilled and our death well up to scratch. But like I said, we are going to be respawning these enemies. So got the enemy spawned up, push our 4, and I'm going to show you exactly what we do. So we're going to pull them forward like so, hit them with our Death's Harvest, start attacking them. And as you guys can tell, we are absolutely massacring them, and they die in like 2 to 3 hits. No problem whatsoever. Now, I do get a lot of those comment sections saying that these are small damage numbers. That is true. However, just remember, I am not going to be using any Forma whatsoever. And considering how we don't use any Forma and a lot of these builds do get nerfed, not only are you saving on Forma, but of course I am saving you time. And that's something that you guys can't go and get regardless of what happens. Unless they invent time travel and does become access to the public. But we're not going to be talking about that, as it's quite... I don't know, you guys have seen those videos, but I don't want to talk about time travel. It is what it is. We can't get time back, and saving time is always amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, I make some pretty awesome Warframe content, so if you guys would like to go from 0 to hero as fast as humanly possible, I highly recommend you guys go and take a look at the rest of my videos. There'll be some links down in the description, and of course, it'll be suggested to you guys at the top right. So I highly recommend you guys go and take a look at it. Either going to be here or here, somewhere around the top left corner. Go ahead and take a look at. There'll be some playlists down in the description as well. Do remember to leave a like on this video. It always helps me out substantially. Spartan click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. I'm Make Like a Banana and Split. See you guys in the next Black Myth Wukong video. I'm out. Peace.